In this video, I'm going to guide you through the research process using our college's online library databases. This is going to be a quick video, and I'm just going to cover the broad strokes. Before we get started, I want to show you that if you don't find what you're looking for in this video, by all means, take a look in your research module in your course, not sure what week it will be, depending on what semester and what course you're taking, and find additional help finding articles. This is a more in-depth, librarian-produced document that will take you through some of the specialized LibGuides that will help you if you want to do some hardcore research. For now, this video is concerned with helping you kind of do the basics when it comes to database research. Another side note, depending if you're taking EN 101 or EN 102, there are different research requirements. So make sure and check your paper's instructions for the research requirements that apply to you. Generally speaking, EN 101 does not have a peer review requirement, but EN 102 does. So I'll do my best to highlight those processes as I move through all of my instructions here, but it's up to you to consult your paper materials and see what processes you need to follow for your research requirements. Let's get started. First thing we're going to do is go to the college's website. We're going to hover over academics and do library and media services. We're then going to scroll down and over to the left, we're going to do library online resources. Now we've got a lot of databases here. Now I'm just going to cover a couple of my favorite ones. I think a good place to start is down under multi-use databases. So we're going to scroll down until we get to, well, multi-subject databases. I think Academic OneFile is a good starting point. This is a good entry-level catch-all database. So we're going to go and open that up. Now a database is just a collection of academic type of research. It's a good way to get off Google. Nothing on Google is vetted or regulated. The databases, there's somewhat of a vetting process. So if you find it in here, as long as it meets the research requirement for your specific instructor or course, chances are it'll be usable. So let me show you what you need to do to meet the research requirement for my class. First thing, there are some limiters here that we want to be mindful of. I think we're going to do a search for alternative fuels. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in keyword, though there are a lot of things you can play around here with. I'm going to leave it as keyword. Now for the limiters, always check the full text documents box because you want to make sure that you're getting complete documents. You don't want to read just the first paragraph. Now if you are in EN 101, you don't have to check the peer review journals box. If you're taking EN 102, you must check it because you have a peer review research requirement for your paper. I'm going to go ahead and check this box in case there are any EN 102 students watching. Something else you can do to kind of limit some of the stuff you're going to find would be in this drop-down box for document type, let's limit to articles, and I'll let you use brief articles as well. There's a lot of other stuff in here, as you can see, that's not going to be relevant to your research requirements. So notice we've got what we're looking for, alternative fuels in this case. Then we have to check the full text box. If you're in EN 102, you're going to check the peer review box. If you're in EN 101, you don't have to worry about that. I don't have any date requirements. I don't mind if you use research that's a little bit older, but some teachers do, so be careful. All of this stuff here, these other limiters, you can consult the specialized librarians' LibGuides for more guidance on that. For now, I'm just concerned with getting you started on some basic research here in Academic OneFile. So we're going to hit search. So instead of dealing with hundreds of thousands of hits like what you'll get from using Primo, we get 714 hits. That's still kind of a lot. I'm going to go ahead and click the first one and kind of show you around. So since I checked the peer review box, this is definitely going to be expert research written by academics for academics. And as we scroll down the page, we see immediately we have an abstract at the top. Now, abstracts are good to give you an idea of what the article is going to be about, but you never want to cite an abstract. Anytime you open up a piece of research, read the abstract because it'll give you a summary, a brief glimpse of what the entire article is about. but make sure and read the entire article if the abstract sounds like it's relevant to what you are trying to research. Now, if you're doing MLA format, and in my class you definitely are, when you're in Academic OneFile, notice it says Academic OneFile up here in the upper left-hand corner. If you're in Academic OneFile, download your article. Then open it up as a PDF. This is an important step in the MLA process because this gives us a look at what the actual article would look like in the printed journal. Now, anytime you do MLA formatting, you have to give the author's last names and the page numbers that you found the information on. And this document, if there are page numbers, will show them to you. So let's scroll down and see what we get here. Here we go. We've got page numbers. So be mindful of this. Anytime you use Academic OneFile, always download your article and check for page numbers because remember, an MLA in-text citation requires author last name and page number. Another tip I can give you when you're dealing with Academic OneFile, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and if you go all the way down here, you'll see there's usually a big long list, here we go, of other articles that this author consulted when writing his or her research paper. Now, there's a lot of messy stuff here, but if you look closely through all of these citations, you might find something that's helpful for you. You can track these articles down and read them yourself. Now, if you have a research requirement like mine, which is usually between 3 and 4 sources, you might find everything you need on one essay's works cited list. We scroll all the way down to the bottom and notice MLA 9th edition. We've got a works cited entry here. Now, I don't think you should ever copy and paste this thing onto a works cited list for a paper you're handing in to a teacher. There are other ways to build a proper MLA works cited entry, and I've got videos to help with that. But when you're in a hurry and you're doing research and you just need to keep track of the articles you've read, I recommend you come down here and just grab the MLA 9th edition or whatever edition MLA we're using, grab that citation and copy and paste it and send it to yourself, your Google Drive, your OneDrive. Copy and paste and email it to yourself, or even take a screenshot of this. That way you can come back and find the articles you've read easily. Notice we've got the author's names here. We got the article title here. We even have the journal name, the volume, the issue, when it was published, and the database name. There's a lot of stuff in here that you can use to find this article again later if you need it. All right, let's jump around and take a look at another database I like using. We're going to find our way back to the library search page. This time, we're going to try a database called JSTOR. So notice, we're still looking at the multi-subject databases. We're going to go ahead and open up JSTOR. Now, JSTOR is a little more specialized than Academic OneFile. Academic OneFile is a good starter database. It's got some pretty advanced stuff, but at the same time, it's got some stuff that high schoolers and entry-level college-level students can comprehend. Now, for JSTOR, I like to hit Advanced Search right away. Then once we get into the Advanced Search, I leave it all fields. We'll do alternative fuels again. Now, there is an additional help worksheet in your course that you can consult to learn how to navigate JSTOR more expertly. It's this additional help finding articles page. I'm just going to give you some fast and loose guidelines for navigating JSTOR. I'll tell you one thing, everything in here is peer reviewed. So whether you're taking EN 101 or EN 102, this database will work for you. You always want to make sure that you are checking the Content I Can Access box, because if you can't access it, it's really of no use to you. Now, I have an article requirement for my research papers, so let's go ahead and check articles. You definitely don't want to do reviews. Reviews are not acceptable research. There's some other stuff in here, and we're not going to worry about that. Let's just worry about articles for today. Then we scroll down and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you want to figure out how to apply these limiters, again, check that additional help finding articles page because there are some expert resources in there to help you better navigate JSTOR. This video is concerned with just getting you started. So let's do a search and see what we get for articles on alternative fuels. All right, we got 38,000 of these things, and it's all content that we can access. Now, we can see these are all journal articles. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open one up. Now remember, everything in here is peer-reviewed, so it doesn't matter if you're taking EN 101 or EN 102. If you find it in JSTOR, it's going to be usable. Something else that's worth noting. You don't have to hit the download tab like you do on Academic OneFile. JSTOR just gives it to you as a PDF. Notice it's almost like we're holding the journal in our hands. So, as we click through the pages, notice we can actually get the page numbers. You see down here. So, this is one less step you have to worry about when you're using JSTOR versus something like Academic OneFile. Now likewise, you want to be aware and don't cite your abstracts, just like I mentioned before in Academic OneFile, but you don't have to worry because everything in here is peer-reviewed. So remember, this is JSTOR. JSTOR is a database where everything is written by experts for experts. And just like in Academic OneFile, if you need a citation to the article so you can find it later, we've got a link for that. If you want to send it to yourself, we've got a Save tab, just like an Academic OneFile. So this is another one of my favorite databases. Let's get back to our main search page and try another one. Now, for this one, I think it makes sense to look at a little bit of an easier database to navigate. If you're taking EN 102, at this point I would say you can probably end the video. There's not going to be anything in here for you. You're not going to be able to use this database because nothing in Opposing Viewpoints is peer-reviewed. If you're taking EN 101, stick around because this is a very useful database if you don't have a peer review requirement. Opposing Viewpoints is probably the most accessible database we have. And you can see here, you might have noticed, Academic OneFile had the word Gale on it, and we see that word again. Always look over to the left and get the actual database name. Notice it says here, Opposing Viewpoints, whereas Academic OneFile said Academic OneFile there. A lot of teachers won't let you use Opposing Viewpoints. They think it's too easy to navigate. They think the articles are too short and too easy to read. I'm not of that philosophy. I think as long as it's in our databases and it's an article, you should be allowed to use it in EN 101. Not so much for EN 102. That's why we've got the peer review requirement. Let me show you a couple of things. Now, of course, you could do a search for your topic here, and we'll do that in a minute. But before we just start searching, let's click Browse Issues. Look at all these different issues that it can give us to kind of prompt us and get us thinking. And if you just kind of glance here, notice we get things like gun control, self-driving cars, sexting, just giving you an idea of how much research is out there. And you could click any one of these that might relate to a topic you want to research, and you'll find a lot of stuff in here. I'm just going to go ahead and do military development because it's right in front of my face. Now, if you were writing some kind of a paper on military development, and you scroll down and notice, it gives you all kinds of material categorized by the format. Now, you don't want to use viewpoints of any sort. In my class, you want to make sure and stick to academic journals. Now, these fall right between the intense peer review stuff that we talked about in JSTOR and kind of the stuff that you would find out there on Google that's not vetted at all. Opposing Viewpoints takes articles that are peer reviewed and they kind of smooth them out. They whittle out the highly technical information, and they make it more palatable for readers who are in a rush, readers who are maybe in high school or just starting to learn about the research process. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the first article here. Notice it's only 5,000 words long. That's not too bad. Now this looks a lot like Academic OneFile, and that's because the same company owns this database, and so a lot of this will look familiar. We scroll down, and we got our article. There is no abstract because this one's already been shortened for us. We've got the download button here, which will allow us to look at it as a PDF if a PDF is available. In this case, it is. Let's see if this article has page numbers. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Notice this one. We check the corners. There are no page numbers. So if you were doing MLA format, which you definitely are, you would only have to worry about the author's last name in text. You don't have to worry about a page number. Now, getting back to our article, just like with Academic OneFile, you would read the entire article and see if there's anything you can use in here. You might get lucky and find a works cited list at the end, as we did here. Maybe there's something on here that you could look up and possibly use in your paper too. We get down to the end, and there is an MLA works cited entry. You'd never want to trust this thing to be correct, but you could copy and paste and email it to yourself so you can find this article easily later on when you need it. Now, let me show you something else here. Notice at the top of the bar we have this search button. I'm going to go ahead and hit back, and it's going to take us to that big long list of all of those different topics that we could refer to. Well, let's get there this way. Here we go. Here's that big long list. Now, I was doing alternative fuels a couple of minutes ago. Let's see if it's on the list here. I've got alternative medicine, but notice it doesn't give me alternative fuels. So does that mean there's nothing in here about alternative fuels? Not a chance. That's where the search bar comes in. If you don't find your issue listed on this big, expansive list, search for it up here. Sure enough, we got 142 academic journals. Remember, you're not going to want to mess around with this other stuff. Let's just stick to academic journals if we're using opposing viewpoints. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Let's just take a look at, how about the first one? Did you notice it said this is a peer-reviewed article? Here, I'm going to bounce back really quick. Look at that. It says it right there. So, if you're, by any chance, if you have a peer review requirement in one of your other classes and your teacher doesn't tell you you can't use opposing viewpoints, maybe consider using it. Notice these are all peer-reviewed. We got lucky on this one. Anyway, let's go ahead and open this up and let's see if we have a PDF to get page numbers. Notice there's no abstract here, so we'd have to read that entire article. Let's see what the PDF looks like. It looks a lot like the last one we clicked on. Notice there are no page numbers on this one. So whether you read it as a web page or a PDF, you're going to get the same thing. You wouldn't be responsible for page numbers. Now, here's an extra tip if you're still watching this video. If your teacher tells you you can't use opposing viewpoints, and that does happen from time to time, but you find an article like this, you could always take that works cited entry from the end here. Let's scroll all the way down. And you could actually look this author up and this article title in one of the other databases and see if it's available. You find it in JSTOR and you'll get page numbers and nobody will be the wiser. Don't tell anybody I gave you that tip. That's kind of a cheater tip. Alright, so I went ahead and I introduced you to my 3 favorite databases: Academic OneFile, JSTOR, and Opposing Viewpoints. 2 of them are appropriate for EN 102 because you can limit your search to peer-reviewed articles. The last one, Opposing Viewpoints, you can't narrow it down to peer review only, so it won't be that useful for EN 102, but it's a great one for EN 101. That's all I have for you this time. If you have any questions about doing research in our databases, shoot me an email in Brightspace and I'll do my best to clarify.